The Mosaic Project was initially conceived as a new multicultural church start. Brooklyn Center and Brooklyn Park together make up the most diverse area in the entire state of Minnesota. Brooklyn Center is 51% minority, and Brooklyn Park is just a titch behind it, not much. One of the things you do when you do a new ministry start is you talk to anybody who will talk to you about what you're doing and what you're trying to discern. So you call police, you call schools, you call businesses, you call anyone who will return your phone call just to do an informational interview to say, we're here, we think there's some new thing that we're being called to do, and we're just trying to get a sense of where you see the community, what are the needs, and where's the faith community at with that need right now. And within a very short amount of time of starting those interviews, the rising number of homeless youth kept emerging and coming to the top of people's lists. So I took that back to my Mosaic team and said, whatever the community ends up looking like of Mosaic, I think this is what our core call is around homeless youth. The Mosaic team headed up an effort alongside the YMCA, our local family food shelf, this church, Brooklyn United Methodist Church, and some others, to put together a youth food shelf for these young people who are experiencing homelessness. And that took an astonishing 5 months, from first meeting, we should do this, to now it's open, which is incredible. After the youth food shelf came an intensive recruitment effort for a host home program, putting together an actual safe house for youth. We partnered with an existing agency, Avenues for Youth, and the city of Brooklyn Park, which gave us a building, $1 million brand new facility for homeless youth. And churches and other civic organizations gathered around us. At the end of the day, we started the facility that is now Brooklyn Avenues, open and serving homeless youth in the Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center area. The reason that the Collegeville program was so attractive to me was because it promised to take a deep dive into the intersection between public theology and public policy. And I was hungry for that, because as an organizer, that's what I ended up being, was the faith-based organizer of this movement. I was picking up things as I went along. But what I lacked was an overall framework. So the Collegeville program was exactly the right thing, right time for me, because it did take that deep dive into demographics, into economics, into healthcare, into poverty, into the justice system, all these things which are, extraordinarily complex. I was able to do some things in a more nuanced way that, had I just been sort of charging ahead, damn the torpedoes, I wouldn't necessarily have done. Public theology isn't just the prophetic voice hollering in the wilderness. It's also the meetings, the boring, mundane conversations that happen one-on-one, and that too is public theology and has public implications. Sometimes faith-based efforts take a more adversarial approach than is strictly necessary, and there are times when faith-based organizing should be adversarial to either a government entity or to a business entity or whatever, what have you. There are times when you have to draw that line. But Collegeville gave me a different way of approaching it. Rather than sort of a battle, it was more of a gathering storm, and we're all in the storm, and we're all going to make it rain together. Ours is a very powerful story. And when we willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly, don't bring that story into the public sphere, we take the fire out of the movement. I work with social service folks a lot, and I love them. But the language of social service is a dry language. It's provider networks, it's harm reduction, and trauma-informed care, and those are extraordinarily important, but it's not movement language. It's care language, it's provider language. If you need to get something done, you need language of a movement. And that's what the Christian story is. It's the language of a movement. So I can speak that language. And I think that's the gift that I bring as an organizer, that I can speak that language and interact out of that very authentically with other public partners. I think one thing that this whole movement that I've been a part of here has taught me, and that some of the conversations at Collegeville have reinforced, has been that when the time is right, you'll know. So I think that God's hopes for my ministry moving forward would be to take those lessons with me. There's a time to stand, there's a time to run, there's a time to walk, there's a time to kneel, and to know the difference between.